Hi boys and girls. So we were just talking about rocks, and we know that if rocks break down into smaller and smaller pieces, it must make something. Like they could be hit by wind, or they could be hit by water, or they could tumble over and over and over on top of each other. But how could we figure out what that does? When rocks break down, they give us sand. So I have some sand here, you can see. And I have this sand here that you can see. And I have this sand here. So you can see that they're all a little bit different. The first thing I want to look at is their color. What makes them different? What color is it? This color, oh, looks kind of tan, kind of white. This color, it looks more tan or white. And this color, I definitely see some black in there. Well, when we see black in sand, we want to assume that it probably came from a volcano and that it's probably lava rock that broke down smaller and smaller and smaller and made that sand. I have a story to tell you about lava rock. It's about the god Pele, the goddess Pele. In Hawaii, they believe that there is a goddess called Pele, and Pele felt like all of the sand, all of this precious sand was her children. And Pele said that anybody that took the sand from Hawaii and brought it back to the mainland, she would give them bad luck until her babies were returned, until all of her sand was returned. So what happened was, that's the legend. This part is the truth. People would bring sand back from Hawaii on their trip. And they would, oh, I've got this cool sand. I brought it back from Hawaii and it's black. And they would get home and they would start realizing, oh, I got a flat tire today. I can't believe it. Oh, I did terrible on that test today. I can't believe it. Oh, I spent too much money buying a brand new TV, and oh, it cracked when I got it home. It was bad luck. It was such bad luck. And so people kept saying that, and they would think that everyday things that happened all of the time were bad luck. So believe it or not, people send their sand back in boxes to hotels or to the park or to the resort, and they say, please take my sand back because I don't want the goddess Pele to be mad at me anymore. So that's a legend. We don't necessarily know that it's true. The true part is that they do send their sand back because they think that all of a sudden they have this really bad luck. But going back to what I was saying is that if you see little bits of black in your sand, chances are that sand has come from a volcanic rock. It was a bigger rock that was crushed down further and further and further to make sand. Okay? My phone's acting funny today. It's a little bit crooked. Sorry. So, the next thing that we can do is we can look at the size. When we look at the size, we know that it is sand if it fits on any of these circles. These little tiny ones, so tiny. They are 0.0625 millimeters. That means it is not even a whole millimeter, it's super small. On this end, it's 2 millimeters. So if sand fits anywhere in between these, then we know it has to be sand, okay? If it's bigger than this, we say that it's gravel, okay? So if I was to look at these, I would probably guess that's gravel. I could measure it, I could look at it, I would say, yeah, that is probably gravel. But if I look at this fine sand right here, if I measured it, it probably would not cover this up. It would probably be too small. And we say that that's called silt. Silt with a T at the end, not silk. Silk is a fabric. Silt means it's really, really fine sand. Super, super fine. And it would be smaller than this. A lot of people pay good money to go to a beach and they say, oh, look at this sugar fine sand. And they hold it up and the sand just falls like this. They're like, oh, this is the best sugar fine sand. But it's not really sand because it's silt. It's too small to be sand. If it's too big to be sand, we call it gravel. If it's too small to be sand, we call it silt. But if it can be anywhere in between these, it's sand. So if I take a little bit out of this and I put it on here and I can see that it fits, I know that it's sand. And I say, oh, that is definitely sand. It has to have a size. It has to be between 0.0625 and 2 millimeters. 0.0625 is tiny. It is little. And if it's smaller than that, we say it's silt. Okay? Something else, we were just talking about volcanic sand, but if I look at this sand right here, I can see what this sand was made out of. This sand has little tiny seashells in it. So chances are this was made out of seashells that were broken down. Does that make sense? Yes, so now we know that we've got silt, we've got sand, and we've got gravel. We've got 3 different kinds of ways to measure sand. We know that if it's truly sand, it's going to be between those 2 dots. But if it's bigger, it's gravel. And if it's too small, it's silt. Have a good night.